This image of a 5-year-old boy being detained by ICE is going viral around the world. Liam Conejo Ramos was leaving school when an agent dressed head to foot in black gripped his Spider-Man backpack and escorted him and his dad towards
All right, so let me get this straight. So we're deporting thousands of black and brown immigrants. Refugees' emissions are at a record low. Haitians were being accused of getting handouts. But suddenly, there's a fast-track refugee program specifically for white South Africans. Oh, okay, stay with me, because this story is not what the headlines are telling you. And the irony is loud. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. There's a viral video going around of white South African arrivals in the U.S. complaining about motel housing and support conditions. And the internet is interneting. But before we get lost in some TikTok discourse, let's break this down properly, because this isn't just immigration news. This is cultural politics. This is demographic anxiety. This is identity and symbolism wrapped in policy. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, let's get into it. But before we do, let me introduce myself. My name is Jade, and welcome to our channel, Get Into the Black, where we explore life, business, and culture our way, from Puerto Rico to the world. I am a social worker who has spent many of years talking about culture and race and its impact on people's life. If you enjoy topics like that, you're going to really enjoy this channel. Hey, for all my kinfolk, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that like button like it owes you money, and drop a comment so I know that you're awake. You can even comment our new emoji, which is the Black Power Fist. I'm going to post an example right in here so that you can see what you can post, so that you can show us some love. Show us that you're here. Show us that you're present and you're vibing with us. And if you haven't done so already, if you haven't joined the Kinfolk family, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you're sure to find something that you're going to like in my content. With that being said, let's get into this video.
You may recall last year we reported on the Trump administration's decision to limit the number of refugees entering the United States. That number was set at 7,500, a significant cut from the Biden era. In addition, the administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems. Madeline Rowley is an investigative reporter for the Free Press, and she joins us now from Virginia to talk about this. And we should note the Free Press and CBS News share a parent company in Paramount Skydance. Madeline, good morning. Talk to us about the conditions some of these refugees say they are experiencing, because the administration made it seem as if they were being prioritized. They are a special group.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on. Yes, I spoke to 10 South African refugees who told me that, they came to the U.S. hoping for a better life, a better situation, just as other refugees. And the government contracts with 7 refugee resettlement agencies that are paid hundreds of millions of dollars per year to provide safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, what I heard from these Afrikaner refugees is that they're spending weeks in motels in unsafe areas. They're being offered housing that is full of mold, apartments that are full of mold in expensive areas. So each refugee is allotted $2,000, and all of that has been going to rent. So they're really left with nothing. And these agencies are supposed to help them apply to jobs, obtain temporary benefits such as SNAP and Medicaid, and basically other people from the community, like neighbors, are having to step in because they just, in some cases, can't even get a hold of their resettlement agencies.
And Madeline, what jumps out to me about what you're saying is we have this almost split screen between what you're describing their life is like now and how they looked in May of 2025 when they were being welcomed here. They were holding American flags. They had smiles on their faces. When you asked refugee groups about these issues with the resettlement process, what are they telling you? How common is this?
Well, from what I could tell, I mean, there is an entire network of people as they come. I mean, people I spoke to came as soon as 2 weeks ago. And what they do is, they have a network through social media groups and WhatsApp, and they're all realizing, oh no, I'm stuck in this hotel. I only have a certain amount of food. They don't have transportation. They don't have the right clothing. I talked to 3 refugees who are in Detroit. It's very cold there. They do not have coats. So they're realizing that they really feel alone.
In 2025, the Trump administration dramatically reduced overall refugees' admissions into the United States. That part is well documented. But at the same time, a special prioritization pathway was opened for white South Africans, primarily those that they call Afrikaners. Correct me if I pronounce that incorrectly. I really don't care that much, but yes, it's a group, and they're saying that they are under the claim that they are facing racial discrimination and violence in South Africa. There are news sources that have been reporting on their transition here in America, and political officials state that they welcome them, but meanwhile, these refugees are saying that their resources are being cut or capped. Now, pause though. This isn't about whether individuals feel unsafe. Crime in South Africa is real. Farm attacks are real. But here's the key. The South African government itself has rejected the claims that white South Africans are being prosecuted as a racial group. There are South Africans who are farmers who are experiencing crime, but this is not something that is targeted to them for being white. It actually is data that shows that there's actually more crime happening to black farmers in South Africa. But anything happens to these white folks, they're contributing it to them being white.
I mean, I know this. I wouldn't trust the South African government to tell me. I know that.
How many black farmers have been murdered in South Africa?
Look, you guys are so triggered over 59 people.
No, I'm not.
After we left 20 million people in the country. I don't know why you're so triggered.
Haven't even brought up the white people that Trump picked out because they were white and told them they could come to the country.
How much racial killing are you going to condone?
There are 19,000 murders in South Africa. 36 were on farms. 7 of the farmers were victims. Okay, this is according to the South African police.
And you think the South African government is a credible source?
The other 29, hold on a second. The 29 victims who were included in the farm killings were farm employees who tend to be black. So the vast majority of people killed on farms in South Africa are black. Where is the concern about them?
The concern is that there are white farmers who have had violence committed against them, and they're being threatened. They're being threatened every single day. There's 59 people,
hold on a second.
And you're triggered about 59 people, and I don't know why.
I haven't mentioned.
See, that's the thing. We're not triggered by the 59. We don't give a shit about them at all. See, the problem we have is the lies about the murders of white people in South Africa and calling it a genocide. Ain't nobody killing white people in South Africa. They still having a great time, living a great life in a land they stole.
And even the president of South Africa has spoken out about this, dismissing this idea of white genocide. And that phrase, white genocide, is very important because that's mainstream international human rights language. That phrase comes from far-right rhetoric that's been circulating online for years. And yet, it somehow became the basis for a refugee carve-out. Let's talk about why that matters, okay? Immigration policy isn't about who gets in. It's about what message is being sent. When refugee admissions overall are slashed, ICE enforcement disproportionately affecting black and brown immigrants, Haitian migration was framed as people getting benefits, and then a white refugee program is fast-tracked. That's problematic because that sends a signal. Even if nobody says it out loud, it tells certain voters, we are protecting you. And this taps into something political scientists call demographic threat theory. The idea that when a dominant group believes its majority status is declining, it reacts defensively. And let's be honest, we've seen the headlines about America becoming a majority minority country. Some people hear that and might think, oh, that's progress. But when others hear it, they think loss. And that fear is real, even if it's just perceived. And it is translated into political power. But here's the twist. White Americans are not a monolith. Not everybody believes in this. Not everyone subscribes to replacement rhetoric. But political messaging doesn't need everybody to be bought in. It just needs enough people to feel uneasy. It needs a critical mass of individuals to believe in the rhetoric. And policy can become symbolic reassurance. Stay with me, because this is where history starts whispering. America has done this before. In 1790, the Naturalization Act limited citizenship to free white persons. In 1924, the Immigration Act favored Northern Europeans and restricted non-European immigration. Immigration policy has historically been racialized. That's not opinion, that's documented law. Spain also did similar things through its colonial era, and we've talked about this in videos. They were tying status and privilege to ancestry and proximity to whiteness. That's not new. What's new is the branding. Now it's framed as security or prosecution, but historically immigration has been reflected of who the country sees as culturally aligned with them. So when a white refugee program is carved out during a period of demographic anxiety, people are going to connect the dots. And if you don't understand the history, you'll think this is all random. It's not random. It's symbolic and very strategic. Here's where I'm going to be direct, okay? If you tell voters black and brown immigrants are draining the system, but then you create a refugee pathway for white immigrants that looks selective, right? Now, do refugees receive initial assistance when they arrive? Yes. They get short-term housing, placement, resettlement funds, job support. That's just how refugees programs work. And they've always worked the same way. It's not some secret welfare jackpot. So when people complain about Haitians getting handouts, but suddenly that same framework is acceptable for white South Africans, that contradiction is the headline. And this is where cultural fear comes in. There's a narrative, not universal, but it is loud, that white culture is being erased. But here's the thing. Whiteness isn't one culture. Irish culture, Italian culture, German culture, that's culture. White as a singular identity, that's political. And when people say they're afraid of white culture disappearing, what they often mean is losing dominance, not losing recipes or traditions. That's a hard truth. But if you can't name it, we can't understand it. And understanding it matters, especially for those of who are watching policy shift in real time. Now let's zoom out. This isn't about motel complaints. This isn't even about South Africa. This is about how immigration became a mirror for identity politics. Who gets empathy? Who gets skepticism? Who gets framed as a threat? And who gets framed as like us? And if you can't see the pattern, you'll argue about the surface. But if you see it, you'll start asking better questions. And this is what this channel is all about. Not just viral moments, but what they reveal. And if you're interested in deeper conversation about identity, diaspora, culture, especially as it connects to global history, I'm building out a heritage retreat interest list and an email community where we go deeper than YouTube algorithms allow. It's not a sales pitch. It's just people who want the layered conversations. You can find the link below, because history doesn't just repeat, it echoes. And if we're paying attention, we'll hear it.
Tell me how you define white identity and what you think is being erased about white identity.
Certain types of Anglo-derived culture that comes from our history.
Like what?
Let me think about this. Senator, I would say if you were to look at the book by one of your former Senate colleagues, Born Fighting, about the sort of Scotch-Irish military culture and certain, pride that went with that, that would be one example. Obviously, you could have sub-elements of that culture. You could have Italians, you could have Irish, and those are in many ways more
but you're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So tell me the values that stitch together white identity.
Policy is never just paperwork. It's a story about who a nation believes it is. And right now, that story is louder than ever. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely enjoy this one. And until next time, stay beautiful, stay blessed, stay black. This is Jade, and you're watching Get Into the Black. Bye-bye.